Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Euro Youth Mental Health Town Hall. We're just going to give it another minute or so to see who, if anyone else, turns up today. Just to remind you that we are live on streaming on this on YouTube. So if you don't want your face to be seen, then make sure to have your camera off. Though it will only focus on the person talking during this session. So if you're happy to be seen, then please do have your camera on if and when we ask questions. There will be opportunity to ask anonymous questions using the tool Mentimeter. I'll put those details in to the chat function in a minute. That is the privilege you get being here. People on YouTube, we're not monitoring the chat or anything, so we won't be answering any of those questions. We are just monitoring the chat in Zoom, so we will start in around 2 minutes. Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining Euroyouth's bi-monthly town hall meeting. This is a bi-monthly meeting that we run every 2 months, in order to give members of the public and people with a stake in young people's mental health across Europe the opportunity to engage with us and our work. The format is a regular one, which we'll cover in a minute. As I mentioned, we are live on YouTube at the moment. And we also have captions live at the moment as well. If you would like to set those up, you can also do that for translation. So yeah, without further ado, we'll kind of jump into it a bit. So throughout this session, there will be a live Mentimeter happening. The Mentimeter is a digital tool that we use in order to collect information and get questions from everyone and kind of get your feedback. So you can comment on things, and there will be 2 points during this session today where we will be checking that. It'll be after the leadership updates, and then again after the focus mini session. So if you did have something you'd like to say, you can put it there, and it's anonymous there as well. So please bear that in mind. But also, if you'd like to speak, or you can use the chat if you don't mind being anonymous. If you want to put your camera on, you are more than welcome to. We would love to see more faces on here as well. Brilliant. So, as mentioned, my name is Nick Morgan. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Euro Youth Mental Health, and I will be facilitating it today. Anna, would you like to very briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Anna Louise Layden, and I am the Chief Operations Officer for UAE Mental Health. And if you can hear my aircon in the background, let me know and I'll turn it off.
No, you're sounding great, Anna. Thank you very much. And I've got apologies have been received from our other leadership member, TJ, who is our Chief Youth Officer. So I'll be giving his update today. So I've just put the code for Mentimeter, the website and the code you need to get onto menti.com. You can use your phone or your tablet or your laptop or whatever it is you're using in a browser. Alternatively, you can just click straight on that link and it'll take you to the site. And that's going to be open throughout this session as a way of get for you to share anonymous feedback. If I'm having to take sips of water today, please bear with me because I facilitated a 3-hour men's mental health session this afternoon, so my voice is pretty raw. Um, but yeah, welcome. Without further ado, let's show you the format then. Oh, remind you who we are in case you've not heard much about us before or just joined for the first time. We are Europe's only youth-focused youth mental health nonprofit, established in 2017 and run by passionate volunteers. Our vision is a Europe in which young people's voices raise up to be heard and acted on to ensure young people have happy and healthy futures. And we act in order to raise up the voices of young people, to promote mental health and support those impacted by mental ill health across Europe. This work was done co-productively with young leaders we were working with at the time. So here's the kind of agenda, if you will, for today. We're in the process of doing the brief introduction and welcome. And as part of that, I encourage you to say hello in the chat, maybe say where you're from, where you're dialing in from today. There's a couple of you here on Zoom. And please, yeah, feel free to have an engagement on that as well. So we will do our leadership updates. So that's around about a 10-minute, so give or take presentation where we share what we've been working on for the last 2 months and what we are hoping to continue or achieve or work on over the next 2 months, i.e. between this and the next town hall. Each of us will do that. And then afterwards, we will open the floor for comments, questions, criticisms, challenges, whatever you would like, we would like you to share that and we will try and answer or respond or even just listen and take it in and use it to better the work we do. After that, we will then go into our mini webinar. This session today will be looking at a webinar I delivered at during Eurojouth, that's us, European Mental Health Week, called Painting a Picture, where I talked about the importance of actively seeking and working with young people from a variety of backgrounds, cultures, and nationalities when it comes to co-producing anything for them. But in this instance, mental health services, policy, and research. So take a sip of coffee. Yep, that's right. Coffee at 20 to 6. I won't be sleeping later. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to jump into my updates. I feel like we need a theme music there that goes like do 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 do. So I've created a slide. It's the first time I've made a slide for this for a town hall. So what have I been doing over the last 2 months? So something that we have been working on with our volunteers. Our structure is set that we are mostly volunteers. The only payment any of us receive is for specific projects, which I'll talk a bit more about in a minute. But with that, we also have volunteers who are young experts by experience themselves from across Europe and offer their time to share and use their lived experiences to inform our work and other professionals' work that we work with as an organization. For a long time, they've been wanting and asking if they'd like to do more. And not just that type of stuff, because obviously these amazing young people that we have as volunteers have many skills, but also want to use the opportunity to maybe learn and develop new skills. So they voted, and it quite unanimously last year, towards the end of last year, that they wanted to have a bigger role in the work that we do and want to help with what I call the backstage area. So, helping with policies and helping create databases of helping with a membership offer, all the kind of backstage stuff that you don't see out in the shiny world in front of camera, let's say. So we've literally just started that. We are going to be running 2 shift drop-ins, if you will, a month, and young leaders who have kind of signed up to this new structure will be expected to join those 2 sessions a month and can do more or less volunteering if they want over that period of time. Those sessions will be like shifts, like work shifts, like if you were working in a shop or a cafe, you would be expected to come, unless you're ill or something like that, and they let us know. Obviously, we will work closely with them, and we will make sure that if they can't make it, why can't they make it? What support can we do to ensure that they can meet their volunteering time? In return for their volunteering, we are again in the process of setting up a kind of different levels of remuneration. That includes free training membership of training programs and also receiving training from us on a variety of kind of skills such as facilitation, basic research in, as well as kind of life skills such as CV writing, um, interview techniques, and just kind of all the types of things that they actually get to choose and share with us what they'd like to train in, and we try and facilitate it either by ourselves, and if we can't do it, we'll look elsewhere to do that. But we've quite a lot of skills in our team. Um, so that's one of the things I've been doing, and that's coincided with a budget shuffle, which we're doing, so that the senior leadership team are going to get on a paid function soon, where the paid projects that we have are currently receiving, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's under project running, is covers what we call core costs, where costs that need to be paid in order for the organisation to run effectively. Myself, Anna, and TJ have been volunteering in this role for quite a while. And so we're looking to see if we can make it so that these project costs can cover our core costs as well, which is what a lot of project budgets look like. So that's one thing. And so, going forward, now that's in place, for the next 2 months for that particular item, we're now setting up these drop-ins. We're going to encourage volunteers to come in, see if it works, see what doesn't work. And what we're also going to be setting up is something called missions, which is basically a task or a mission, just because it sounds more fun than a task, for young leaders to take on. A good example of one of those tasks will be to manage our newsletter, and manage and curate our newsletter on a monthly basis. It's not indefinitely, by the way. They can choose to do it for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and so on. So there'll be lots of different missions coming out to them by the time of their first drop-in, which is in 2 weeks, I think, 7th of July. So if you're watching this and you're kind of keen to be involved, I'll be sharing one of TJ's updates later about recruitment, so hold space. My second kind of task, which is a forever task, CEO, is policy documents. Anna's going to be updating us on some of our trustee elements, I imagine, in a bit. And we will, but once we've got our trustees and become a charity, we need to have certain policies in place. We already have quite a lot of policies in place around safeguarding and public speaking and well-being, and finances and remuneration. But there's an endless list that I'm constantly trying to add to. So that is an ongoing task. The policy document I'm currently trying to work on is kind of like a volunteering illness document to go alongside the new volunteering role thing. And then projects running. So that is me talking about the 2 projects that we currently have as paid work. So there's 2 of them. One's called Youth Gems, one's called Bootstrap. You can find these projects on our website to kind of learn more. But Youth Gems has been running very smoothly. Youth Gems, we have a group of young people called Young Experts who co-produce and facilitate on that project. It's been running very smoothly, so much so, but I only had to facilitate and support the amazing youth engagement facilitator on that project, Ella. So I've not been doing a lot of on the ground work. I've been doing a lot of project management, working on the budget, and kind of working on timelines and things like that, whilst Ella gets to do the fun bits, such as engaging with our young experts. Later this year, we do have the annual meeting, which is in October, I believe. Not sure where it is yet. I think it's, but so that's when the whole project gets together. The project itself is at a really good stage, and Youth Gems as a project is looking at the way the environment impacting people's mental health. And they're going to be designing an app soon to come out of that. And then Bootstrap, a lot more hands-on Bootstrap, and because we are responsible not only for involving young people in that work from a co-production point of view, but the evaluating of any way young people are participating in that project. So we're currently working on an evaluation plan, which is almost finished, and a set of tools and a timeline to do that for the next 4 years. We've got 4 years left on the Bootstrap project. Yeah, so that's something I've been working on. Evaluation, something that is notoriously forgotten about in youth work, which is as a youth organisation. I'm quite excited to be doing this piece of work and being able to have the time to create it because we'll be able to use elements of it for our organisation and other work going forward as well. As per anything, you don't want to reinvent the wheels when we get opportunities to create work that will also add what's the word? Add more to our work, then it's great to be able to do that. So that's it. And I guess generally, the next 2 months now, it's summer. Lots of people take holidays, and especially working across Europe, it's a very cultural different thing. I know some countries people disappear off radar for a month, whereas at least here in the UK where I'm based, it's they might take a week, but other than that, it's work as normal. But we will be looking to meet up and do bits as we go forward as well online and continue that work. That's my update. I'm now going to hand over to Anna, our COO, to share hers. Anna.
Thank you, Nick. I didn't write a slide, so you're just gonna have to listen to me talk and take notes if you want to. But it so for the past 2 months, I've been working on. I took a little bit of a break in May, just to catch up and recuperate a little bit. But since then, I've been working on recruiting the trustees, recruiting. We've had, with regards to trustees, we've now had two, on the last check, we had two applicants for chair, another person who's contacted me by email, and another couple of people that have contacted about the board but not chair. So we've got quite good. We've got one person who's contacted about treasurer. So between myself and my colleagues, we will be interviewing, putting together the panel again. So reigniting that and getting some interview dates set within the next couple of weeks. With regards to actual trustee meetings, I'm trying to schedule one at the moment. So that will be sent out in the very, very near future, like this weekend. So that will just be a doodle poll for the regular meetings. So these will be ones, instead of just planning it by each meeting, we're going to set them up for dates so we have a regular time, regular schedule. Also working on training and putting that together and making sure that happens. It's been a bit slow, purely just because trying to do it all has been a little bit of a challenge, because I've also been working on finances with regards to making sure we check them all, paying vouchers, paying expenses, paying invoices. So that's my next bit that I've been working on. We are due an update from our licensed partnership with Sensi. They are due to update us by the end of June, so that should be coming in any minute as to actually how much money they raised for us. So when that comes in, that will be between the senior leaderships, trustees, etc. We will be working out what we do with that money and what happens next. So I'm waiting on that. We have written a statement that goes alongside their public notice of the amount they raised, etc. So I've been doing that. And also just some of the general admin of responding to meeting with people, setting up meetings with potential collaborators along the way, or membership options. So we met with Mental Health Europe. So that was an interesting meeting. We are also, so I've been doing that as well. When it comes to going forward, as I said, it'll be more on trustee recruitment. Hopefully getting someone in place for both the treasurer and chair. Once we've got them, we can then support going forward with the theme of becoming a charity, which will be huge for us at Euro Youth Mental Health. We will then, um, I'm also then looking at more financy stuff of actually updating spreadsheets and things so that when it comes to submitting our next stuff, we're not completely behind. So there's a lot to be done on that and looking at the best way of doing that. Um, and continuing to respond to emails and get our board ready and support induction, support training, support Nick on anything that comes up, and TJ on anything that comes up, and just be a general person of support and help and discussion within the team. Um, so yeah, it's just about moving forward with all of the things. I think also another focus that will be discussed is a part of TJ's theme, but I'll be supporting the recruitment aspect that I'm sure Nick will mention when in TJ's, so I won't go into that. But I'll be supporting that. Um, yeah, I think that's it. If there's any questions or anything, fire away either in the chat or anything. But yeah,
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And as mentioned, yeah, we'll be doing questions at the end. So anything you have, do shove it in Mentimeter or put it in the chat. We'll have a look at it after today. Thank you, Anna, for all your incredible hard work. Yeah, it's a lot to take on, and reiterating that this is all done voluntary at present. Um, so thank you for that as ever. Yeah, so as mentioned, and I made a slide for TJ because he sent me some bits earlier today. And Anna, you don't have to make a slide. It's all fine. Um,
you told me I didn't need a slide, so I didn't make a slide, and then you've
you
all
didn't
made
need a slide.
slides.
You don't need a slide, exactly. I just had time to do one today. I didn't. It's the first time I've done one. So thank you very much. So yeah, I'm going to do TJ's update. Chief Youth Officer is our role that focuses on kind of young people and young youth involvement. So three elements. The young expert fika. For those who don't know, fika is a term used in Sweden. I found this out, excuse me, off TJ, so I can't take credit. That is, I'm going to get this horribly wrong. So if someone from Sweden or anywhere kind of anyone who knows what a fika is, apologies if I'm totally messing it up, is a chill, downtime, mindful space for coffee and chat. And that's what TJ does. Started earlier this month, the first one, and it's aimed at young people who are doing kind of any kind of co-production work in either with us or not. It's so we are going to be pushing and marketing this to other organisations across Europe who do this sort of work, and it's a peer support group essentially, where TJ will kind of facilitate a safe space for young people who are doing young experts work, youth co-production, that type of thing. Really to kind of meet each other, get a community going, build that community, and feel like they can lean on each other. There's one thing I think peer support is very common and popular in youth mental health kind of interventions across Europe. But there's another thing of having a level of responsibility, being a young expert and being on doing youth co-production work as well. And so we wanted to, as an organisation that focuses on that, we wanted our peer support group to highlight that element of it as well. So that's one of the main things TJ has been working on. He did the first one last month, and we'll do another one now next month. I don't actually know the date of it, but please follow our socials to find out. I believe it's the second Sunday or the third Sunday of the month. Yeah, and it's online. It's in a space that we use called Gabbertown. So you create a little fun avatar. And when you're next to someone, your camera pops up and you can say hello and can chat. So yeah, TJ facilitates conversation, gives you all space to kind of just hang out. And then there are also games you can play together in that space as well. So it's really meant to be a really fun, informal semi-formal, semi-facilitated space that TJ kind of manages. Yeah, so next month I imagine it's a big case of promoting it more now. So it was very much a beginning last month, and now we're hoping to promote it and get more and more each time. But TJ also wanted me to highlight and say a big thank you to those who did come last month. Um, so thank you for that as well. So that's coming up. Another thing TJ's mentioned that this is more something that he started thinking about, and now we're just starting to plan. He's responsible for getting more young people's voices at kind of on our social media and in our work. And yeah, so we're currently going to be looking at creating a plan for that with TJ leading on it. I'm hoping one or two of the young leaders in our volunteer pool will take on this mission with him, and be able to kind of support him with that. The idea being that, we'll start with wanting to get at least one thing young youth created out on our communication channels at least once a month. I've already started thinking that this town hall could be a nice space to have every month a different young person maybe sharing their story. And it'd be a different young person from a different country each month, which in itself would be really, this is why I said this, it's very fascinating. The differences of how mental health is seen and understood and supported for young people across Europe because of the vast cultural differences in that Europe has. So that's a piece of work that TJ is going to be leading on and has just started planning. And then lastly, yeah, recruitment. And I received an email today actually from a young person, or we did, I should say, because it was in our info at box. Yeah, recruitment. So we're testing this out now, as I mentioned, this new volunteering structure. But whilst on the side of doing that, so the current volunteers will help make sure it's as the best it can be for when we recruit some new volunteers later this year. The idea being is that we're going to look to recruit probably from around August, with the idea that they start after World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. And then the idea being that each year we'll do the same kind of routine, where hopefully young leaders can do a piece of work that culminates on World Mental Health Day, and then we start another cycle after that time. So it's like a year-long cycle, and people can stay on as volunteers for certain periods of time of their choosing, which we review as well. So I know that's something that TJ is very keen to get up and running. And so we're excited to potentially offer it out to our young experts who currently are just on projects and see if any of them want to take on a bit more responsibility, as well as any completely new people. We've got a few events coming up later this year, so we hope to meet a bunch of new people and yeah, really get going and get some more young people involved and spread our how can I say, spread our love. Let's say it that way. That's not the word I was looking for, but love's a good word anyway. So that is all of TJ's updates. So that's all of our updates, in fact. So as mentioned at the start, so you've got an opportunity now to comment or ask a question or ask a question or kind of just say that sounds great, that sounds rubbish. If you have a concern, like I said, we're open to anything really. Feel free to put something in the chat or in the anonymous Mentimeter that I set up, which I'm just checking now. So you won't see it, but I will. There are no response, no questions so far. Yeah, so are there any questions about anything we've talked about so far today? I will now stop talking briefly for people to muse.
You're on mute, Nick, if you were talking. Nick, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Thank you very much, Anna. So we have had someone's commented on the Mentimeter, which I much appreciate it. So just saying thank you. Everything sounds great. So I'm just monitoring at the moment. And then, oh, someone's asked how can new people get involved more broadly? So if you're watching this and you're liking, or if someone shared this with you after the live feed, because this will stay on our YouTube now after this, then you can get involved by emailing us at info@eymh.org, or just pop us a message on any of our social media feeds, Facebook, Instagram. One of us will get in touch and reply, and tell you about, I guess, the options there are for getting involved. And alternatively, you can also sign up for our newsletter, which I mentioned earlier, which I've just actually put a link to the sign up page if you haven't already, in the chat. But it's on our website. There's a specific link to subscribe to our newsletter. And through that, you'll find out about our events and other elements first, before anyone else, and also when our membership scheme goes live as well. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, there's another question. Thank you. What are our thoughts on how to spend the Sensi money? I was just thinking about an aeroplane made of chocolate. I don't know about you, Anna. Oh, you mean for everyone? Right, sorry. Anna, I know we've talked about this, but feel free to what's the word?
Yeah.
Free lib. And whilst Anna's doing that, I'm curious about you, the audience. How do you think we should spend the Sensi money?
So, from, I mean, I think one of the key things that we don't know how much it's going to be is one of the key factors in this. It could be a very small amount and we can't do much with it. It could be a much larger amount and we can do lots with it. All I know is that when I looked at the page just before it closed, 3 out of 5 items had all sold out. So we don't know how many items they had in stock. So again, that doesn't give us any information whatsoever. Um, I think for me, we need to look at whether any of it goes towards core costs. We need to look at whether what goes towards. I'm thinking on big scale. I'm thinking we've got quite a lot because I'm going to be optimistic. And I think it would be great if we can put some towards core costs, some towards project cost in regards to bringing our young people together once a year, whether we can budget some of that towards a workshop conference type thing of sorts that we've discussed previously. Um, but yeah, I think it's about using it to solidify our future a little bit.
Thanks, Anna. This is why you're COO. You're thinking far more sensibly than me. I was think not that I was thinking, and not that I was genuinely thinking about a chocolate aeroplane, as amazing as that would be. Um, but I think my first thing is always to jump to an event of something. But as Anna mentioned, we don't know the amount we're going to get, and from I think it's a maybe €1,000 up to. Are we talking double figures, Anna, potentially? Or am I making that
So
up?
the last campaign they ran in the same style raised 81,000 for that
Yeah, there you go. So,
campaign.
so
So
yeah, it could be 1,000, it could be 81,000, which is quite a big difference. I said what we will do is we will hold, before we do anything with it, we will speak to our trustees and our young leaders as well, about how to spend that money. And your what's the word, sensibilities of, yes, core costs. And I think it's taken I've potentially taken for granted, but we've taken, volunteering is good, but you need, in order for volunteers to be able to be facilitated to do the work effectively and be looked after and supported, that's hard work. And so there's something about, yeah, finding so how we might be able to spread that out for a year. I think for me, I also thought about is there worth in maybe using the money to pay for a freelancer or an agency to help set us up the charity stuff. Because once we become a charity, I already know, one or two funding pots that we can go for and probably get. From a European-wide point of view, there's pots of money that the European Youth Foundation give out for starting NGOs and things like that, which is what we will be when we transform to a charity. But yeah, I think it's worth mentioning, and I don't know why I didn't mention this in my update. Our 49 for the 49 fundraising campaign that started earlier this year in January, the idea to raise approximately €5,000 to try and arrange to then use that to bring together young people with lived mental health problems together to do some workshops and trainings and kind of that sort of thing. So like a study week has not gone well. And we have not made anywhere near as much as we were hoping. Why that is we're going to review that, but we're currently talking with the trustees and young leaders about should we continue that or should we kind of just stop it here and to empty our headspace so we can focus on things that matter, basically. The reason I bring that up is because that event or that idea of a study week could also be funded by Sensi, depending on how much we have.
This is it.
And our volunteers deserve something like this as well. And there is a European Youth event next year, which Anna's been on and TJ's been on, and I'm looking at who's in the room. I know some of our other volunteers have been on before, and that's always fun. That's a funded trip to Strasbourg for this big youth festival that happens every 2 years. Where about 8,000 young people from across Europe and beyond come together to do workshops, trainings, facilitations, and kind of generally be awesome. Which we try and go to all the time. We usually end up facilitating 2 or 3 workshops as well. So that's always fun. So maybe it's something we use for the alternate years. I'm coming up with thoughts as we do it. Yeah, it could be a way of
Lots of thoughts, and it all depends on what we get. We can't even make plans at the moment because we could get very little, we could get huge. It's so up in the air that we can't say it's gonna be these are our ideas because there's so many and it all depends on exactly what we get.
I think we're open. You here at the town hall can influence this as well by telling us, putting the Mentimeter now. What do you think a sum of money could go towards? It's important to have ideas. You can't plan too much, as Anna said, but it's important to have ideas so we're not completely stumped. Regardless of how much we get, we have an idea of what things we could do. My sort of reorganizing of the budgets, the project budgets has helped because now there's a set sort of scale of what our scale is in terms of our pay, so we can fit in with that depending on how much we get. Thank you for that question. Really appreciate the engagement. Haven't had anything else, so without further ado, I think I might move us on to the next bit. Use the same space on Menti if you have any questions or thoughts about this. This is a mini webinar. And again, thank you to those who are still here as well. I want to point out that this was not a brilliantly promoted town hall, and that's partly on my fault. But also it's a capacity for everyone. Our communications and promotion isn't always as much as great as we'd like it to be, but we know people will watch our videos, especially on YouTube, after the event often. And this is also after work from almost all of you as well. So yeah, we're going to move on to the mini webinars, I've called it, which is, here we go. Painting a picture, introduction to inclusive co-creation with and for young people. So this is a slightly amended version of our workshop that we delivered during European Mental Health Week back in May. in that meeting, we had two young experts, Finty from the UK and Sue from Cyprus, speak and share their experiences of diversity or lack of diversity in projects and things that they've been involved in. Those videos are going to come out as separate bits on our YouTube page within the next month or two. And because then this is the bulk bit either side of that. So without further ado, I'm just gonna, yes, as a webinar, it shouldn't be that long. I'm aware of looking at the time. We will probably be done by 7 p.m. UK time, 8 p.m. Central Eastern time, Central European time at the latest, but probably before actually. We put aside an hour and a half because the more people there are, often the more questions and maybe engagement there might be. So, so just an introduction to what we mean by inclusive co-creation with and for young people. This is based on this work that I've been doing for about 12 to 15 years in the UK and, almost 7 years now in Europe, is doing these co-creation, co-production projects with young people. That there's often a kind of a very specific set of characteristics in the young people who receive and do these opportunities, not through their fault, but maybe through a kind of professional and societal oversight, let's call it, in wanting to engage young people. Youth co-production and co-creation is often very hard to do and requires a lot of time and energy and effort and money to do it effectively. And so we're often guilty, myself and everyone who's done this work before, of just being happy that we got some young people at all, full stop. But often it's the people who are putting themselves forward are usually people in middle class, maybe often white, cisgendered young people who are get in the more opportunistic spaces in their communities and in their countries or in their lives. It's not to say that obviously we don't want them. These young people are incredible people. But the reason we need to think about inclusivity and co-creation is that whatever we're co-creating is that it'll only work as kind of functional, whether it's a policy, a service, an app, a workshop, as well as the professional skills and the service user kind of young expert skills and experience that you have in the room. So, I know it sounds, so if you don't have anyone from the LGBT community in the kind of co-creation group, then you might, not intentionally, sorry, but you might unintentionally kind of miss a nuance or miss a complexity that needs to be considered when creating this thing for young people who identify as a trans male, for example. So it's these things, these are the reasons why inclusion and co-creation is good, important. It's also worth noting that, sometimes as well, as I said, some people don't put effort in at times to try and do this. But I think it's okay if you do it and recognize that there's a lack of diversity in your group. It's another thing to do it and not really address it and not notice it. So why would you do this? Would you proactively seek to gain a variety of diverse and inclusive kind of inputs from young people? Well, it removes barriers to healthcare. Yeah, so barriers. There are many barriers to healthcare and mental health care in general. There's the obvious thing around stigma. Now, stigma has different levels depending on what community you're from. If you're from a kind of white middle class or black middle class or white working class and so on. So it's important to get these different ideas. Better research. So no method exists for assessing the diversity and inclusivity of existing or new narrative collections. The quote that I've taken that from has been referenced at the bottom of this slide. And that's just talking about how we often don't kind of look to do that. We don't look to ensure that we get new narratives from different people and understand the differences. It's more appropriate, relevant, and realistic services, policies, and research results all round as we become more and more a multicultural nationality, religion, multi sexuality in societies. Healthcare and mental health services and policies need to ensure that they're addressing and meeting the needs of these young people, all of them. Um, but also, I think one thing I've noticed as well about ensuring that you're sort of looking at inclusion and thinking about how you might involve new young people just generally is to prevent burnout. I've worked, which is a slightly different matter, but it often is linked. I've met many young people who are, say, 21 and have been doing young expert, young advisor, whatever you want to call them, work for this for since they were 14. Um, and they're stressed because they're doing so many different projects and work out because often we as professionals can be guilty of just, as I said, just being happy that we've got young people in the room willing to share. Um, so yeah. And lastly, just because equity, um, I think it's, depending on where you are in Europe, the makeup and demographic of the young people of your city, of your country, of your local village differs, of course. Um, but a piece of health work I've done recently for a different project, we wanted to get a diverse kind of input into that work from different young people's voices across the UK. Um, and so we picked some places just generally with no real kind of, I guess, research into why we're picking those places. But then knowing that often this particular issue, it wasn't mental health. It was diabetes. This particular issue maybe isn't talked about as easily for different communities, and in this case, it kind of Pakistani and Indian, Asian. So we found, we looked at what cities have large demographics of that community, what villages in that city have large demographics of those communities, and we went to those communities. We found, we met with a community team or so like a youth worker that works in that area or a healthcare professional that works in that area in order to make sure we're proactively involving that voice. So as I mentioned, if you're thinking like this and you're currently going, oh, okay, this is interesting. What can we do? These are some things to consider. Who is missing from the room? So kind of looking at the room. A typical thing in my early days of doing youth engagement work was it was often simply as simple as a gender thing. It was often, a group, we'd have a youth engagement group and it'd be 10 girls and one boy. And so then next time we proactively go out to try and recruit more boys. You're never going to get it perfect, the mix. That's okay. It's just, like I said, it's important to be aware. So think about, is there a community that isn't represented in my work at present? And maybe should it be? I should add that. Am I offering a varied engagement options? So when you're trying to engage, if you want to engage a diverse group of people, put in something out on Facebook to invite people to get involved is one way of engaging groups of young people, but not everyone's on Facebook. Not everyone has the internet. Not everyone has ongoing access to the internet. So thinking about, am I offering, and not everyone can turn up in person, or not everyone can is comfortable using their voice. Online meetings, especially, can be quite anxiety provoking. And so, is there a way I can collect young people's input without having to put people on the spot? So, am I offering varied engagement options? How long have current young people been involved in my work? When was the last time I checked in with them? This is something that I believe, is missed rather quite a lot in youth engagement work. And it needs to be done more so especially in mental health. We forget to check in with the young people, have regular check-ins with them. What else is going on in your life, and being a gatekeeper to their involvement. Is this actually feasible for them at the moment? When you hear about, oh, I've got GC exams, and then I'm doing a work placement, Oh, but I have to look at my I have to look after my mother as well because they're ill. I'm a young carer. Oh, but I've also got sports on this day, and I also volunteer at a shop. And just ask yourself and ask them, is this actually doable at the moment? Do you need a break? Or do you need to maybe move on? That's okay. It's important. Which is why the next point is important as well. When you do youth engagement projects, we often forget to plan the end. Always plan the end. Yeah, start and a finish, or start review, and that is like that can be the finish, or it can be the start of the next phase. Um, and what am I offering the young people involved? Does it cater to a variety of audiences? So vouchers are quite a common thing that we offer young people to get involved in opportunities and work of this nature, which are all well and good. Um, but there are many other things that we can be offering young people, such as training, facilitation, experience in doing certain work, like the volunteers that we have, our young leaders, they'll gain experience in maybe forming and curating newsletters and sending that sort of stuff out. And that's a skill they can add to their CV. Um, and I think for some people, often these opportunities are springboards to help in their mental health as well, and their improving confidence and their ability to speak more publicly, for example. Public speaking is quite a big pull in terms of what young people want out of doing these sorts of things. So top tips, this is the last slide, and then we'll be done with our mini webinar. Top tips, what can you do? So as I mentioned, proactive recruitment. I think there's one thing in kind of just, putting posters out on, or a graphic on socials and those sorts of things. But if you already, perhaps we probably, I 9 times out of 10 already know the groups I'm not going to hear from. So I'll make an effort to maybe reach out to an organization that works specifically with that group. In the UK, I remember doing a piece of work where I specifically looked for young black men mental health groups because I knew they wouldn't apply to our organization's work because we were quite a big professional organization of therapy that has a lot of white men at the forefront of them, and it can be, so it doesn't relate. Which leads me on to my next point: create links with community youth services, any services, I guess, in the community. And then when you need to reach out to them about a particular opportunity or you want young people involved, you've already got that link, because building that link takes time. And they're less likely to help you if you just reach out to them randomly, asking for their help. Always consider the intersectionality of the work and those young people engage in, and be transparent about it. As I mentioned earlier, you're never going to get this perfect, but it's important to recognize it, talk about it, and be transparent about it in your process of recruitment, in your planning, and also then with young people in the room. Recognize that you in this room are helping design an app for, I don't know, young people's mental health in Italy. But there's no one here from, I don't know, there's no one here from South Italy. I know North and South Italy are very different. There's no one here from South Italy, so we have to remember that when doing this work. And remember, differences are to be celebrated, and the more we learn about our different cultures, the better, in my opinion, I guess, and that's what Euro Youth Mental Health likes to champion. Think about how you can facilitate that. Something I've done in the past when working with national projects is invite people to do a kind of show and tell about their town or where they grew up or their city or their, and that type of thing with photos. And it just adds color and realisticness to someone's life. Have specific time periods for your projects, plan endings, don't have them indefinite. Do some market research with young people in your community. So you can, go out and meet young people in the community and youth clubs and things about what they might want in return for helping out these sorts of projects. Again, being about proactive. And lastly, which is a shameless plug, because this is something Youth offers, think about participation support planning. So something we do at Youth Mental Health is we have a kind of like a live support plan for any young people that we work with, any young people involved in our work. We don't provide therapy, but we are able to support and mentor young people from across Europe to enable them and empower them to use their lived experiences to make positive change. And we do that by having an ongoing participation support plan, which has, their contact details and in case of emergency, as well as what are the current things that are potential triggers or might be difficult for them at the present. So we always know what's going on for them, and but being aware of that enables us to work with them in a way that is best for them. So that's something to consider. Like I said, we do have a bit more of a training program on that. That brings our mini webinar to an end. Again, I'll check the Mentimeter in a minute and ask. I'd like to open the floor if there's any questions. Anna, you're included in the any questions bit as well. Checking chat and Mentimeter.
I just want to add that it's such an important topic that unfortunately isn't always discussed and thought about. So I think it's great that we're including it in our conversations.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah, it's a big thing that I've learned more about as the years have gone by. Give it a few more seconds to see if anyone's got any questions or comments or remarks. No, there are not. Some useful papers. Well, that kind of brings us to the end. It's earlier finish than normal town hall. It's only an hour long. These are every 2 months. The next one will be at the end of August. We might postpone it because I know lots of people are off in August. Please, if you'd like to get in touch or work with us or do just anything really, please reach out. info@eymh.org and our website www.eymh.org, and you can find us on all socials, eureyouthmentalhealth.org. If you have a thought about anything we've talked about today, and think of a way to help, want to give advice, want to make a suggestion, we're again open to you reaching out. Anna, any final words would you like to share before we finish?
No, just thank you for coming and watching this video and listening if you're catching up on YouTube. We very much appreciate everyone that listens, watches, shares, and contacts us. So please do not hesitate to get in contact with us. If there's anything that you think we can collaborate on or you'd like more information on, just let us know.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. And have a lovely rest of your evening. Thanks for giving up your Thursday evening with us. And we'll see you next time.